For lesson 7, we're going to round multi-digit numbers to the thousands place using the vertical number line. So we're going to look at the number line going vertically, focusing in on the thousands place. So for number 1, we're going to round to the nearest thousand using the number line to model. So now, as you can see, I've already gone through and done mine. Okay, so please pause if you need to fill yours in also. So we're starting off with 6,700. Now we have 6,000s. We add one more to get to 7,000. Now we look at our hundreds place and we see that we have a 7. Well, 7 is more than 5. So we put our 6,700 right here. And since we're past the halfway point, we're going to round up to 7,000. Okay. Now for letter B, we're starting at 9,000. One more gets us to 10,000. Now half of 1,000 is 500, so 9,500 would be in the middle. So now we go to our hundreds place and we see a 3. 3 is less than 5, so we're below our midpoint. Okay, which means we're going to round down to 9,000. Okay, for letter C, this gets a little bit trickier because we're moving over into that 10,000s place. But we're starting off with 16 thousands. One more is 17,000. Okay, so we follow the same process. We look to our hundreds place and we see a 4. Well, 4 is less than 5, so we're below our midpoint. So because we have a 4 in the hundreds place, we're going to round down to 16,000. Okay. Now moving on to letter D. Again, same thing. We see we have 39 thousands. One more is 40,000. So 39,500 is in the middle. So we come over here and we see that we have a 5 in the hundreds place. And we actually have 545, which is more than 500. So we know we're a little bit past our midpoint, which means we're going to round up to 40,000. Okay, so because we have a 5 in the hundreds place, we round up to 40,000s. Okay, moving on to letter E. Again, we have 399 thousands. One more is 400 thousands. So 399,500 is in the middle point. Okay, notice how when we're rounding to the thousands, 500 is in the middle. So we have a 4 in the hundreds place, which means we're below our midpoint. We're actually just 1 below. So because of that 4 in the hundreds place, we actually round down to 399,000. So this is a little bit tricky because we see all those 9s, but that 4 in the hundreds place tells us to round down. So our final one here, we have 840,000s. Okay, we can see that up here. One more is 841,000. Okay, so the 0 in the hundreds place tells us we're down here on our number line. So we round down to 840,000. Okay. Moving on to our next page, we have a few word problems. So for number 2, a pilot wanted to know about how many kilometers he flew on his last 3 flights. So from New York City to London, he flew 5,572 kilometers. Then from London to Beijing, he flew 8,147 kilometers. Finally, he flew 10,996 kilometers from Beijing back to New York City. We need to round each number to the nearest thousand. Then find the sum of the rounded numbers to estimate about how many kilometers the pilot flew. So this is the process that we need to follow when we're estimating. We round each of the numbers, then find the sum. And then that's how we get an estimate. Okay? We don't add first, then round. We have to round, then do our adding. So let's take our 5 numbers here. Okay? And we're going to put a little squiggly line here showing that we're rounding. So we're rounding to the nearest thousand. Notice how I've underlined all of this in the question. You should be doing that also. So our first number here, we have 5 thousandths, but we have 5 in the hundreds place, which means we're going to round up to 6,000. Our next one, we have 8 thousandths, but the 1 in the hundreds place tells us to go down to 8,000. Our final one, we have 10 thousandths, but the 9 tells us to go up to 11,000. Okay? So now when we add these three up, okay, 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Carry the 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. We get 25,000. So our estimate is 25,000 after we rounded each of the numbers. Okay? So the pilot flew about 25,000 kilometers, and we're using that about to show that we had to do some rounding. So finally, our number 3, Mrs. Smith's class is learning about healthy eating habits. The students learn that the average child should consume about 12,000 calories each week. Now, Carrie consumed more than that, 12,748 calories last week. Tyler consumed 11,702 calories each week. Okay, so we can see one went over, one went under. We need to round to the nearest 1,000 to find who consumed closer to the recommended number of calories. So since one went over and one went under, we need to round those to see who got closer to that goal of 12,000. Okay, so we have our two number lines here for each boy. So now Carrie, we can see consumed over 12,000. So that means our bottom number here is 12,000. Another 1,000 would get us up to 13,000. All right, so then our midpoint would be 12,500. Okay, so now he consumed 12,748. So that's 7 in the hundreds place, tells us that we're past our midpoint. So we're rounding up to 13,000. Now Tyler, on the other hand, has 11,000s. And then another 1,000 would be 12,000. So we need to see where we are in between those two. So then our midpoint would be 11,500. Okay. Now again, 7 in the hundreds place tells us to round up to 12,000. Well, after we're rounding, we see that Tyler actually rounds to 12,000, whereas Carrie rounds to 13,000. So Tyler is actually the one that consumed closer to the average. Carrie was actually closer to 13,000 than he was to 12,000. Okay. So Tyler ate closer to the recommended amount. Okay, because 11,702 rounds to 12,000, and 12,748 rounds to 13,000. Okay, so finally number 4 here. For the 2013-2014 school year, the cost of tuition at Cornell University was $43,000 when rounded to the nearest 1,000. Okay, so now this time they're giving us the rounded number. What is the greatest possible amount the tuition could be, and what is the least possible amount the tuition could be? So this time they're giving us the rounded number. We need to come up with the highest number that would round to 43,000 and the lowest number that would round to 43,000. So our number line this time is going to look a little bit different. We're actually going to put 43,000 in the middle. Okay? Because we need a number that's more than that and a number that's less than that that'll round to this number. So this is our goal number right here. Now, 1,000 more than that is 44,000. Okay? And 1,000 less than that is 42,000. Okay? So now we can put in our midpoints. Okay. All right, so now the greatest possible tuition amount. Now, going above, we know that our midpoint right here is at the point when we start rounding up. So the highest possible number we could get is actually whatever is right below our 43,500. So one less than that would be 43,499. Okay, Okay, that's the highest we could go and still round to 43,000 because we have that 4 in the hundreds place. Once we get to a 5 in the hundreds place, we got to start rounding up. Okay, so this is the highest amount we could go. Now again, the lowest amount, we start going below that 43,000. Lowest we can go is this point right here, 42,500. Okay, because that 5 tells us to round up. Once we go below that line, then we would end up rounding to 42,000. Okay, so the greatest possible tuition would be 43,499, and then the least possible tuition would be 42,500.